This is the scene nobody talks about. Not the walls falling, not the famous miracle. This moment, right here, where a man stops time itself just to finish a slaughter. Joshua is more than a general. He's a hypothetical. What if God handed one man the power to make armies vanish, rivers part, and even the sun obey him? What would a nation do with that kind of weapon? And what would it cost the man holding it? This isn't the war story you remember from Sunday school. This is the version nobody wants to preach on a Sunday morning. Because by the end of this video, you're going to look at the hero of Jericho completely differently. Stick with me, because the most disturbing verse in the whole story is sitting in plain sight, and almost nobody stops long enough to read it twice. Moses is dead. The man who carried Israel for 40 years is gone, and the job falls to his assistant, a man named Joshua, son of Nun. God's first words to him aren't comforting. They're a command repeated 3 times. Be strong and courageous. 3 times. That's not encouragement. That's a warning. God is bracing Joshua for something brutal. And here's the assignment. Cross the Jordan, take the land, and don't just defeat the nations living there. Canaan's cities are to be utterly destroyed. Every person. The Hebrew word is cherem, devoted to destruction. No survivors, no plunder, nothing spared. This is the part preachers skip. God isn't sending Joshua to liberate a land. He's sending him to erase nations from it completely. Before a single battle, God shows Joshua exactly what kind of weapon he's become. The Jordan River, at flood stage, swollen and impossible to cross. And the moment priests step into it carrying the ark, the water stops. Not slows. Stops. Upstream, it piles up like a wall. The whole nation walks across on dry ground. This is the same exact move God pulled at the Red Sea under Moses. And that's not a coincidence, it's a signature. God is telling Israel, and telling Joshua personally, the power that freed you from Egypt now belongs to this man. Joshua hasn't swung a sword yet, and already nature itself is bending around him. Jericho, a fortified city, walls thick enough to live inside of. And God's battle plan is frankly insane. March around the city. Once a day for 6 days. Say nothing. On the 7th day, march around 7 times, blow the trumpets, and shout. That's the entire strategy. No siege engines, no ladders, no army formation, just obedience and noise. And the walls fall flat. Just collapse. Then comes the order that should stop you cold. Kill everyone inside. Men, women, children, the elderly. Spare nothing except one family who helped Israel's spies. This is the first city Joshua's superhuman mission claims, and it sets the pattern for everything that follows. Here's where the story gets interesting, because Joshua isn't actually invincible, and the very next battle proves it. Israel attacks the tiny city of Ai, expecting an easy win after Jericho. They get routed, beaten. Mendy, Joshua tears his clothes and falls on his face before God, devastated. Why did the power disappear? Turns out, during Jericho, a man named Achan secretly kept some of the forbidden plunder for himself, gold, silver, a robe, items that were supposed to be devoted entirely to destruction. One man's hidden disobedience cost the entire army its power. This is your first tracker moment. When a mission is compromised by sin, the superhuman force backing it goes silent. Achan is found out, and the punishment is severe. He and his family are stoned, then burned, along with everything he stole. It's brutal to read. But watch what happens immediately after. Joshua attacks Ai again, and this time God himself fights, sending Israel's army to win decisively. Total slaughter, this time sanctioned and successful. The pattern is locked in now. The power isn't really Joshua's. It's conditional. It flows when the nation is aligned with the mission completely. And it vanishes the instant someone treats God's command like it's optional. Keep that idea in your pocket. It's going to matter again very soon. In the most famous scene of Joshua's life, 5 Amorite kings band together against Israel's allies in Gibeon, and Joshua marches all night to defend them. Mid-battle, with the enemy fleeing and the slaughter still incomplete, Joshua does something almost nobody fully grasps the weight of. He looks up in front of the entire army and commands the sun and moon to stand still, out loud, to the sky. And the text says plainly, the sun stopped in the middle of the heavens and did not go down for about a full day. Think about what that actually means. A human being just paused the rotation of light itself so he'd have enough daylight to finish killing his enemies. This isn't a hero stopping a war. This is a man given so much power that time itself answers to his command for vengeance. And here's the verse that should stop you cold, the one I promised you at the start. After the sun stands still, the 5 kings are found hiding in a cave. Joshua has them dragged out, and he makes the army commanders put their feet on the kings' necks before executing them. Then their bodies are hung up until evening. This is the moment Joshua stops looking like a deliverer and starts looking like exactly what the title says: a superhuman built for one purpose. Not protection, not justice in the modern sense we'd recognize. Eradication. The text doesn't flinch from this, and neither should we, because pretending Joshua's story is clean is exactly how we miss what's actually happening here. By the end of the campaign, the text gives us a summary that reads less like scripture and more like a war ledger. 31 kings defeated. Entire regions, the hill country, the lowlands, the wilderness slopes, wiped clean of their previous inhabitants. The phrase used over and over is "he left no survivors." Not "he won," not "he conquered." No survivors. This is the part of the story most retellings quietly skip past, jumping straight from the walls of Jericho, and they lived happily in the promised land. But the text won't let you skip it. Joshua's superhuman gift was never measured in miracles. It was measured in nations that no longer existed when he was done. So why would God do this? Here's where most modern readers want to look away, but the text actually gives a reason, and it's not because they were in the way. Deuteronomy explains that these nations' practices included child sacrifice and ritual horrors so extreme that the text says the land itself was being defiled by them. God frames the conquest not as territorial expansion, but as judgment, and a warning baked right into the same passage. If Israel adopts these same practices later, the same fate awaits them. This doesn't make the violence comfortable. It's not meant to, but it reframes Joshua's mission from random genocide into something the text insists is moral reckoning, however brutal the method. But Joshua isn't flawless, and the text won't let him be either. The Gibeonites trick Israel into a peace treaty through deception, and Joshua, the man who just stopped the sun, gets fooled by a simple lie about worn-out sandals and stale bread. He honors the treaty anyway, even after discovering the deception, because a vow to God can't be broken, even one made under false pretenses. It's a strange, almost humbling detail buried in the middle of all this conquest. The superhuman general, unstoppable on the battlefield, completely outmaneuvered by ordinary human cunning. Power and naivety sitting side by side in the same man. Joshua eventually grows old. The text tells us plainly, there remains very much land yet to be possessed. The conquest is never fully finished. pockets of the old nations remain, and that incompleteness is going to haunt Israel for generations. Just like Samson was told he would only begin Israel's rescue, Joshua's mission has the same unfinished shape. He clears the way, but he doesn't complete it. The superhuman who stopped the sun and erased 31 kings still leaves the job half done. That's not failure exactly. It's the pattern God seems to repeat constantly. No single deliverer ever finishes the whole story. Before he dies, Joshua gathers all of Israel and gives them a choice that's become one of the most quoted lines in the Old Testament. Choose this day whom you will serve. He's not bragging about the conquests. He's not reminding them of the sun standing still or the walls falling. He's pointing them away from himself entirely back to God and warning them that the power they witnessed means nothing if they don't stay faithful to the one who gave it. The superhuman's final act isn't another miracle. It's a confession that none of it was ever really about him. Here's the shape worth sitting with. Joshua's name in Hebrew is Yeshua, the same name later given to Jesus. A deliverer who leads people out of slavery, through water, into an inheritance they didn't earn, fighting battles they couldn't win alone on behalf of a promise made generations earlier. The parallel isn't subtle, and it's not accidental. But where Joshua's conquest ran through violence and an incomplete victory, the deliverer who shares his name finishes what Joshua started. Through a completely different kind of battle, a completely different kind of weapon. Joshua cleared land with a sword. The greater Joshua clears sin with a cross. Joshua's story isn't comfortable, and I don't think it's supposed to be. A man handed staggering power, used for a mission he never fully finished, who in the end pointed away from himself and toward the one who actually gave him that strength. If there's one thing worth carrying out of this video, it's this: power without obedience eventually goes silent. Just ask Achan. And power with obedience can stop the sun in the sky. If this kind of breakdown is something you want more of, hit subscribe right now, because next week we're going inside the story of Saul, the king God anointed with his own hands and then personally destroyed. Drop a comment telling me which superhuman story you want covered next. And if this video earned it, leave a like. It actually helps this channel keep telling these stories the way they were actually written, not the cleaned up Sunday school version. See you in the next one.